Today's hymn, O Blessed Spring, is an example of one form of art inspiring another, which inspires yet another. While all three of these artists happen to be Lutheran, this hymn is hardly limited to Lutheranism. With most of the hymns of this series so far, the origins of the text and tune are unclear. But in this case, it's different because I was there. The story begins with a bronze sculpture called Life Tree by Paul Granlund, held at Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in South Minneapolis, Minnesota. I served this church for 10 years as musician, and during those years, Susan and I and our 2 boys were a part of that community. The sculpture was on the wall just above the baptismal font, as if growing right out of the water. Christ is the trunk of the vine, and out of it come 4 branches depicting the seasons of life: birth, youth, aging, and death. The sculpture inspired Susan Palo Cherwien to put this image in the form of a hymn text and added the dimension of connecting the seasons of life with the seasons of nature. So we have spring and birth, summer and youth, autumn and aging, winter and death. The Christ divine image of John 15 teaches us that Christ nourishes and sustains us through all of these stages. As we first breathe and cry out at birth, through uncertain and rebellious years, when our limbs their heavy harvest hold, and when we breathe our last, our souls are then given wings to soar. Susan's writing of this text, especially stanza 3, coincided with our life experience with my grandmother Maisie at the end of her life. As her body slowly gave out, her arms and legs got heavier and heavier, even though she didn't weigh much. The thing is, inside she still felt like the 1920s flapper that she once was. Her soul probably is now dancing with wings flapping, light as a feather. One thing I appreciate about Susan's texts is her use of words that can have multiple meanings. Take the word spring, for example, in this hymn. Is it the season? Is it about water? Is it about sudden release, like to spring forward? Maybe. Well, we can go to the poet's corner of this house and ask her directly.
Image and symbol are the language of the soul. Anybody can enter an image. Anybody can enter a story, but not everybody can enter a doctrine. And the Bible is written full of images and metaphors, and that's what I tend to use in hymn texts that I write. I also love to use words when I can do it without seeming too clever. I love to use words that have more than one meaning. It means all of those things, any of those things. I never want to lock in what I have written in a hymn text into one particular meaning. It does not mean only one particular thing, just as Scripture does not mean only one particular thing in its images and metaphors and stories. Their open-endedness allows each of us to enter into a room. It creates a space for us. It creates a well where all of us can come and drink.
She wrote this text originally with the well-known folk tune O Wally Wally in mind. Some hymnals have kept this pairing. There is a mindset that congregations might be more receptive to new texts when they are put to tunes that they might know already. But this text inspired a third artist, composer Robert Buckley Farlee, to write what Susan called the perfect tune for this text. Bob is a local Minnesota church musician and ordained pastor. He named the tune Berglund after his mother's family. Something you might not know, the composer of the tune gets to name it. What I like about this tune is it works a lot like a vine. It climbs and grows with gentle twists and turns as it breaks through where the light is at the high point, highlighted by 2 half notes in the 3rd line. It flows just beautifully. I suppose a 4th artist has entered this commune of inspired artists in this case, as I felt inspired to create arrangements for the tune and for choir and for its accompaniment. The harmonies of the accompaniment and the registration on the organ help the vine to grow both in height and strength as it breaks through to the light at its high point, hopefully encouraging the singers to do the same. To introduce this text and tune, the improvisation has an image, I hope, that is illustrated. It begins with water gently bubbling out of the dark earth, becoming a vine and growing up, and branches are added like a fugue as it climbs toward the light. And the hymn is stated in its entirety in a higher and brighter key, after which it retreats back into the ground in the dark earth where it awaits the next spring. Stanza 3 is for choir and illustrates the heavy limbs their harvest hold as the choir falls in half steps heavy and eventually die. The warm strings of the organ gently swirl about, bringing the stanza back to life as the choir grows and are given wings and the gifts of beauty, wisdom, and love. Images around water and trees can't wear out as far as I'm concerned. There's so much about each of them that provides us with an endless supply of metaphor. We need metaphors because they provide for repeated encounters with different understandings as we look at them through the lens of our ever-changing life experience. These are the texts that will last, especially because most of the time we sing about God is truly a blessed mystery.